Chapter 14. A Hellish Horde. As Arden and Kai exited the portal into the Grand Hall, they were greeted by the same panicked uproar they had witnessed on Bruma. 400 acolytes and maisters were all talking at each other and shouting, the fear palpable within the room. Maester Valor finally stood atop a table, gaining the attention of everyone around.
"Please, calm yourselves!"
Valor shouted. The voices quieted down a bit.
"How are we supposed to be calm when there's an army of shades out there?"
shouted a dwarven maester.
"There must be hundreds!"
"A little over 800 would be my guess," Arden interjected. The whole room turned toward him, instantly silent to hear what he had to say. His eyes narrowed before falling on Orc Maester Fyron. "Looks like a bunch of dead humans are our problem now, wouldn't you say, Fyron?" Fyron's eyes drifted toward the ground as Kai turned several shades paler, understanding what Arden meant. The people of Camrus. Shades were only created by violent deaths, angering and twisting the soul into an unrecognizable state. Oren had murdered and tortured his kin, just to make an army for himself.
800, by the gods,
a goblin maester muttered.
"We can't possibly fight that many."
"Oh, in that case, we'll just leave it in the hands of the citizens then, shall we?" Arden shot back.
"No one is suggesting that, Arden," Valor replied. "But we also cannot leave Caelum Vallis unprotected. The fate of the 6 realms could fall if we do."
"So then we don't," Arden stated. "Acolytes remain at the castle to protect the travel orbs. Maesters, go out and protect the people. If you're okay with that, of course, Valor." Valor seemed to hesitate for a moment, desperately wanting to disagree with Arden, but sensibility seemed to take over as he turned and shouted to the group.
"We shall follow Lord Arden's suggestion,"
Valor declared.
"Acolytes, you are to split into groups, protecting the north, south, east, and west walls of the castle. Do not let a single shade breach our perimeter. Maesters, we shall divide ourselves into groups of about 12 and spread throughout Isalia to protect the people. Rangers will lead the offensive. Other affinities will focus on defensive and light magic."
"Healers to me," shouted Marine. "At least one healer to a group. The rest will be following me to the most populated areas." In an instant, the hall erupted in purpose. Maesters broke off and grabbed weapons before teleporting out of the Great Hall. Acolytes were lining up, being given orders on which walls were theirs to protect. But Kai didn't follow the other acolytes, instead falling into step behind Arden as he rushed off to issue orders to the maesters within his group.
"Arden!"
Kai shouted as Arden turned back toward him.
"I can come with you!"
Kai stated sincerely.
"I can help! I can fight!"
Arden gave a wry smile. "Of that, I have no doubt, kid. But I need you here. If the shades get inside the castle, I need you to get the stone out of Caelum Vallis and as far away from Oren as possible." Kai froze for a moment. "But Arden, I don't know where the creation stone is." Kai turned to see several maesters looking at him at the mention of the stone. He quickly quieted his tone in response. If there were maesters working with Oren, as Arden feared, alerting them of his knowledge of the stone or its location would not be wise. Arden responded by shaking his head. "But you do," he replied quietly. "You already have that knowledge, and that knowledge is power." Kai answered with a confused look. He was about to ask another question, but 12 maesters were now standing around them. Arden turned to his group. "We are starting at the Eastern Continent. Remember, shades have the ability to invade your thoughts, whisper in your head. It will make focus and communication with the amulets difficult. Keep your wits about you and have light magic at the ready." The 12 maesters he commanded nodded in agreement as they instantly called forth balls of light within their palms. Arden turned back to Kai, tossing something to him. As Kai caught it, he noticed it was Arden's flask. "Hang on to it for me, would you? It's kind of a family heirloom." Maesters by the dozen began teleporting out of the Great Hall, heading into battle. The room was clearing in an instant. A panicked thought crossed Kai's mind. What if this was the last time he saw Arden? The concern on his face must have shown through, 'cause Arden looked back at him with a reassuring smile and said, "See you soon, kid." And with that, his master was gone. Kai was standing in the frigid winter breeze at his post on the southern wall. The acolytes had divided into groups, each protecting a portion of the rampart. Kai noticed that his posting was solo, though, his fellow acolytes seeing a human in their group as a detriment rather than a help. He was scanning the horizon for any signs of the Shades. Calum Vallis had barrier magic around the castle to help prevent trespassers and outside magical attacks from breaching the walls, but it had its limits against an army, especially an army of Shades. The acolytes standing guard were the last defense against the enemy gaining access to the Six Realms. Kai was turning over Arden's flask in his hand, trying to think of what Arden had been trying to tell him about the Creation Stone. Kai had never heard Arden tell him where the stone was hidden directly, so why did he think Kai already knew? He had to be missing something. Kai saw the sun starting to sink, signaling night was not far off. Shades preferred to come out at night. They thrived in darkness. That being said, even the sun could not stop them. One of the few things that could was a spell, a purifying light. He remembered Arden teaching him the spell as part of his training. Kai practiced his attack as he held open his palm and muttered, "Solaris Lyrel," as a bright ball burned in his hand for a moment before he dismissed it. Kai took a deep breath. From what he had read, he knew that fighting Shades, he would have to keep his fear in check. Shades reveled in fear, and they instilled it in their prey. They would whisper things, show you things. They could drive you mad just as easily as they could kill you. "Hey, Kai!" Kai turned to see Saya and Riley walking towards him. "I see you were assigned to the south wall as well. It must be where they're sending their strongest fighters," Riley added with a wink. "Or where they're sending those they deem to be the misfits," Saya added earnestly. Riley shrugged. "Either way, I can think of no two people I'd rather die beside." "That is both incredibly sweet and horribly morbid, Riley," Saya stated honestly. Riley leaned over the side of the ramparts, looking out at the pure white landscape. "You see any sign of them?" he asked. Kai shook his head. "It doesn't make sense. If Orin went through all the trouble of amassing an army, it would seem like he would want to focus his attack on Calum Vallis itself. It is a stronghold of the Council, after all. Wouldn't spreading his forces just make them easier targets?" Riley conceded the point, adding, "True, but spreading out the maisters also makes them easier targets, and what better way to take out an enemy? After all, 200 versus 800 is not great odds." Kai's face fell. Saya noticed his concern. "Despite the odds, maisters are the most powerful beings in the Six Realms," Saya added. She smiled at Kai. "I'm sure they will be victorious." Kai nodded as he twirled the flask again in his hands. Riley caught sight of it as he did. "Well, I would offer you a drink, but it looks like you brought your own," Riley noted. "Oh, it's not mine. Arden asked me to hold on to it for him. Said it was a family heirloom." "Ah, so Lord Arden carries a flask, huh?" Riley inquired with a grin. "Why am I not surprised?" Saya noted dully. Riley reached out a hand to Kai. "Can I see it?" "Oh, sure," Kai replied, handing it to Riley. Riley popped the top and took a whiff, immediately pulling back from the pungent alcohol that caught his nose. "Whoa! What's in there?" Riley inquired. "Dwarven fire whiskey. It's Arden's favorite." Riley let loose a long whistle. "Strong stuff, and aptly named too. I once got drunk on it playing cards with a group of dwarves. Let me tell you, that stuff is lava going down and coming back up." "Charming mental image, Riley," Saya added in disgust as Kai chuckled. Riley turned the flask over to inspect the image on the front and grinned. "Well, gotta respect a man that puts the image of Yggdrasil on a flask, paying homage to the deity of wisdom while you drink yourself stupid." Riley passed the flask back to Kai, but Kai froze slightly as he took it, slowly looking it over in his hand, the gears turning in his brain. "Yggdrasil, the deity of knowledge and wisdom." "Yeah?" Riley replied, slightly confused. "And knowledge is power." "So I've heard," Riley said uncertainly. As the picture became clear, Kai chuckled slightly in disbelief. "I'll be damned," he muttered, shaking his head. Arden was right. He did know where the stone was. He'd known for a while. He had just been too distracted to notice. Riley and Saya exchanged confused glances. Before they could even ask a question, Kai disappeared. Kai appeared in the library, kicking himself for his own ignorance. 100 times. He had been in the library over 100 times since he had come to Caelum Vallis. Now what Arden had been trying to tell him made sense. When Arden had shown Kai the library, he had told him that knowledge was power, and explained that Yggdrasil was the deity of knowledge. Then, the night he met Saya, he sensed a familiar feeling as soon as he entered the library. He had chalked it up to nostalgia, but it wasn't. It was literally an energy he had felt just once before, in Umbri's study. Kai rushed up the staircase to the 4th floor of the library, where the huge stained glass window of Yggdrasil resided. The sunset on the horizon cast a focused beam through the stained glass panels. Kai carefully scanned the panes, looking for his quarry. His eyes caught what appeared to be a bubble between the 2 yellow panes, part of the sunset behind the tree. He smiled, knowing that someone staring at the window would easily mistake the bubble as a defect in the glass. Kai, however, knew differently. If you want to hide something from a mage, you do it in plain sight, he muttered with a smile. Kai closed his eyes, focusing as he did when he teleported, but stopped short of actually jumping to another location. As his body began to fade, Kai reached his arm forward, his translucent hand easily passing through the glass. He grabbed the bubble in the glass as it faded in his hand as well. As he pulled his arm back through, Kai's form became solid again. He looked down at his left hand, where he now held the bright yellow creation stone. Kai turned over the stone that had started this whole thing, looking at it up close for the first time. This small stone was the cause of so much mayhem, but he couldn't understand why. Kai didn't get a feeling of powerful magic from it. This artifact wasn't capable of leveling cities or subduing armies. It didn't offer the gift of life or grant a sudden death. It was just a magic stone, one which Kai could feel a small amount of wind magic radiating from. It wasn't immensely strong, so why did Arden want it so badly? As Kai was examining the stone, a sudden, sharp pain shot through his left arm, almost causing him to drop it. It felt like he was holding his arm to a hot piece of metal. As Kai rolled up his sleeve, he saw the tattooed word, Baron, burning on his arm. The threshold spell. Someone had entered Arden's tower. Kai suddenly remembered he had rather abruptly ditched Riley and Saya at their posts without a word. They had probably come looking for him. Kai once again faded, reaching back through the stained glass and putting the stone back in its hiding place. Now that he knew where it was hidden, Kai would be able to grab it quickly if any trouble arose. As soon as it was safe, Kai immediately teleported, heading back to Arden's tower to greet his friends. "Hey, sorry, Kai started as he appeared in the tower, but his thought was interrupted as he stood in stunned disbelief. The tower was in complete disarray. The buffet was broken, the dining table was in shambles, and the sofa had been gutted, with the cotton fluff strewn all about the floor. Even more surprising was that 2 elven acolytes Kai had never seen before, cloaked in black, were standing in the tower with him. It was clear that Kai had interrupted them in their task, and both looked at him with the same shock Kai felt. The surprise only lasted for a moment, though, as they immediately raised their hands to attack. They were fast. Kai was faster. He appeared behind them before they could even finish their incantation. "Geist!" Kai shouted. The long drapes hanging from the veranda window whipped out as though they were flowing arms. They enveloped the 2 trespassers quickly, cocooning them and pinning them against the wall. The cloaked figures struggled inside the fabric as Kai glared down at them. "Who are you?" he demanded, but the elven figures gave no answer. Kai's hand twitched in a sudden, fluid movement. The fabric that bound them swung to his command, peeling away from the wall only for a moment before knocking the bound intruders back into it. The 2 elves groaned slightly as they once again hit the stone wall. "Allow me to clarify. You are trespassing in my master's tower, so you will answer my questions, or I will have—"
You will what, boy?
Kai turned to the familiar sound of a voice, just in time to see a flash coming toward him. Something hard struck him on the back of the head before he even got the chance to teleport. Kai hit the floor, his senses completely dazed. His disorientation had given the other acolytes a chance to escape. They freed themselves from the drapes and began walking toward him. The common room was nothing but a blur, as Kai saw a figure in black with a staff standing over him. Despite the high-pitched tone resounding in his ears, Kai raised a hand to try and shoot a spell toward the aggressor, but the figure in black simply held out a palm and stated, "Somnumia." And that was the last thing Kai remembered.